I look smaller with this white shirt. Because in reality, I'm huge. So I might wear this from now on. So yeah.
So Kendrick was on there, and the reason why we're bringing this up now is because he rated his albums from worst to best. The order of which is Section 80.
Great album.
To Pimp a Butterfly.
Fantastic album.
Good Kid, Mad City.
Amazing album.
And Damn.
Probably my favorite.
Damn's your favorite?
Yeah. You know what's funny? You know what though? I don't know. I can't really say favorites anymore because at this point, there's still the way I see it is that there's still a large selection of songs from each album that I'm always replaying. Mm-hmm. So I can't ever really say, "Oh, this one's my favorite," if I can just as easily go back to this one and do the same exact thing. So I'm not gonna say favorites anymore. I'll just keep it on the same, keep it on the line that Kendrick is one of my favorite artists ever, and I'm just gonna leave it there because at this point, picking albums is pointless.
Well, I'm not going to get into detail because I feel like we can make a whole separate video, which we probably will, on dissecting our favorite Kendrick albums, worst to best, whatever you want to call it. We can probably even do that next.
Yeah.
But, Damn to me was just more accessible to a broader audience in terms of the hip-hop community, where To Pimp a Butterfly could cause a lot of, not controversy, but just a lot of, it's very polarizing in the sense that it can be a hard listen for people who aren't avid hip hop fans. Good Kid, Mad City was the intro to the world of who he is, and it had a lot of good concepts. It had a nice, a very very good cohesive story, and it was just a very good introduction album. Section 80 was that transition from underground to mainstream. Even though it's technically an underground album, like people never, if you talk to the general audience, people think that Good Kid, Mad City is his first album.
Yeah.
So it's understandable. Section 8 was just like, to me, that was him going.
That was the door opening from.
That was the door opening.
Being noticed.
That was him being standoutish. That was him showing himself to be different. And it has so many just classic songs that you might not listen to over and over again, but ADHD, Rigor Mortis, Spiteful Chan. It was just a lot of just cool, like cult classics.
Spiteful Chan. I think that's
High Power.
That's like Ross's favorite song.
That's one of my favorite songs.
Every time, like Ross will play that junk in the car, and all you see is you just see this country ass white boy. I know a lot of people that smile in my face, that tuck behind my back every time I'm done.
But yeah, but that like I said, that even there's just so many songs on there that are just cult classics for real fans of that style of like underground music. So when I say I disagree with that, it's really subjective. I believe it is subjective because his reasoning was he rated them in the way that he did because he said that he pretty much said it was a total amount of all three of those old projects put into this project. Damn. And I go back to what Ab Soul had said. He's one of my favorite rappers. But what Ab Soul had said in an interview, he said that Damn is like a throwback to K-Dot. And I can agree because K-Dot, they talk about the different aspects of people's personality.
Yeah.
And Kendrick Lamar, in terms of how he's been, people, when he called himself K-Dot, you had a distinct thing.
Yeah. Which
honestly translated starting from Section 80 when he started with the whole Kendrick Lamar era, where it was Kendrick Lamar for Section 80, Good Kid, Mad City, To Pimp a Butterfly, but the Kendrick Lamar, Overly Dedicated, or the Kendrick Lamar EP, like all that was like just him transitioning from K-Dot, where his biggest influences, like you could tell that nigga listened to Lil Wayne hard back then. Because if you told me that K-Dot back then, listening to his old music, and you play some To Pimp a Butterfly junk, that's not the same dude.
Yeah.
Absolutely
not. Even close.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I can tell that when Ab-Soul said, he thinks that Damn was like him going back to K-Dot, doing something for the streets, just going hard hitting, trying to, get more accessibility, because it's just like, you don't want too much. There's too much of a good thing. Kind of like the way we've transitioned in the past few years, where I may not like a lot of the mumble rap that they call, or just the kids nowadays and stuff like that in the past 5 years or so. But at the same time, there was a certain place. I don't want to hear rigor mortis in the club.
No.
You don't want to hear, you know what I'm saying, all this conscious rap. You don't want to hear J. Cole, you know, all these deep stories that he's telling in the club. You want to hear some Migos. You want to hear some Lil Yachty. You might want to hear some you know what I'm saying? Like, you might want to hear these different people. So I think that everyone has a place in hip-hop. Yeah. So I think that Damn was him just switching things up a little bit while still keeping the element of who he was, because each individual song on there still had a meaning versus the entire album being one huge thing.
I feel like, to me, I got the perspective of him judging it based on what he was able to accomplish making that album. Because like he said, you know, Section 80 and Damn, he said he didn't have any rules for it. He kind of just made it and knew how he just wanted it to be. But, you know, he said he had rules to follow on Good Kid and rules to follow on To Pimp a Butterfly, which, you know...
I would say he had rules to follow on To Pimp a Butterfly. It was more on Good Kid, and he notated it before that. Yeah. And afterwards. And on To Pimp a Butterfly, that was him saying he wanted to do something for his mom, his dad, his parents, OGs. Yeah. And, you know, I felt like that was him just giving his take on that style of music era. So I don't think that was him limiting himself, because he had already... Dude, the second To Pimp a Butterfly... the second Good Kid, Mad City dropped, 6 months later, people were already calling him, oh, he's the greatest of all time. And I was already tired. I said, no, let's not go that far. Then when he dropped Control, the next year, I was like, this nigga's the dopest. And then when To Pimp a Butterfly came out, it was just so... It was like you heard nothing like it. You know what I'm saying? You know,
it's sad when you're claiming a song to be his and it's not.
What? No, that's what I'm saying. That's why I said the Control verse.
You say, when you say you drop Control, and it's just funny.
No,
today that's how people still address it.
What's the same reason why you think about it like this?
5 years ago?
Think about it like this. When you say Monster by Kanye, you don't think about Kanye West.
Nah, you think Nicki's verse.
Nicki. You think Nicki. You say when Nicki came out with Monster. So, like I said, you know, it was just... Like I said, I think that I don't necessarily agree with the ordering that he did. While at the same time, I can see why all four of those albums are so different from each other that I think anybody could say anyone is the best. I wouldn't necessarily be mad if someone said Section 80 was the best, if Good Kid, Mad City was the best, if To Pimp a Butterfly was the best. To Pimp a Butterfly was my favorite personally because of how unique it was, especially for the time that it came out, and still how sonically important it is to me. Because think about it this though, real quick. Sorry. When you listen to Pimp a Butterfly, right? Tell me after that, I'm not saying that he started it, but you know how once trends start popping, a lot of people just so happen to be in that same vibe. So it's kind of like when you start hearing the dum 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 dum. Yeah. Everybody just start navigating towards that. So when To Pimp a Butterfly came out, tell me when people started doing their big concept albums, you didn't start hearing a lot more funkadelic. Yeah. You didn't hear a lot more, you know, like Bambaataa type music, you know, in hip hop. So that's why I said once you're able to change the course of which way music is going, and you're still on top, you know what I'm saying? Like, to me, that just shows that says a lot, and especially the fact that I don't have one song on that album that I skip. I don't. Like I said before, I think I say there's 2 songs that I don't skip. It's just that some those are mood songs, which was what's it called? You? Yeah, that's a mood song. You gotta be in the mood to sit here and listen to him go in on himself. This nigga sitting here Eminem 8 Mile on himself, and how much a dollar costs. It's real story driven, it's narrative driven. Excellent song, I love it, 100%. But like I said, still, I'm listening to a lot more different songs than just that. But anyways, go ahead. What you were saying?
Well, no. I don't know. I guess for me, that's the reason why I love Damn. The reason why I love Damn so much is because, you know, I still take pieces of everything. I still take huge chunks of each album. There's always there's songs that I replay all the time from all 4 of these albums. Yeah. But I will say though that Damn, I think is the closest to give me the feeling that all of them gave me.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's why.
I didn't think it was a nice.
And Damn did a lot better of songs that I didn't like at first. That made me start getting with them, like God. Mm-hmm. That hook always annoyed me.
This what God. I love that.
But here's the thing. It became one of my favorite songs. So now I'm in the car. It's like now I'm in the car like
Well, this is the thing. Well, to me, see when you got that feeling, I got the feeling where for me, an artist can really get me on their side when it comes to how excellent I think the album is. Because I don't believe in listening to an album once and then just saying that that's it.
Yeah,
I believe you have to sit with it, make it dwell with you for a while.
Give it nearly a week,
Or I just say give it a few plays in total. Like listen to the album a few times.
Yeah, for me I have to collect it for a whole week. I'm listening to it all the way through.
Yeah.
And then after that I pretty much it'll be the only thing I listen to throughout the week.
Yeah.
When I do feel like listening to music, and I might not listen to the whole album all the way through again, but I'm going to be listening to that album throughout for at least for the most part. I'm going to be listening to each song. I think both of us take that same route, just different forms. And then once the week ends, I kind of, it's not that I move on to the next thing. It's just that I know, okay, I really enjoy this album. There's a chance I'm going to run to it again. Yeah. I don't know how many times I played Triple X on there, because I'm playing like there's something. Triple X is my favorite song, unfortunately, because it's actually a very dark song. Triple X is my favorite song because of I like you. Like I know you got baby cousins, but when you become an uncle, when you actually have when there's a child that you see growing up all the time through your actual siblings, it changes your perspective on everything. So when Kendrick was talking about
pulling my pants,
when Kendrick was talking about how if somebody killed my son, to somebody getting killed, and then that last part when he's talking about let somebody touch my mama, touch my dad, when he was talking about that, touch my nephew, touch my brother, and I said when he said all that, like I got hyped because I started getting angry. I was like, yes, I said somebody better not touch. I was getting angry.
It always makes you want someone to touch him just to see what you do with him.
Because it's this whole, because like you can sit there and be a good man or be a righteous man or all that stuff, but you don't really know what you're gonna do until it actually happens. Mm-hmm. Correction. You might know what you're gonna do when it actually happens. You just don't want it to be that way. But I appreciated that Kendrick was admitting to himself that I'm coming across as a positive man. I'm coming across as this righteous man, this man who knows the way, right? But then all of a sudden, when a friend is telling me, hey, what would you do in this situation? I know I'm supposed to tell him, hey man, keep your head up.
Yeah.
It's alright. It's kind of like what Schoolboy did when he said his homeboy lost his son, and he said, keep your head up, it'll be alright. Yeah. But he was like, nah, fuck that shit. Whatever you need, I got it. And he's like, saying, if he wants to weed or work, fuck it, then I'm riding.
Yeah.
Like, this nigga's making money, and he's still telling his homeboy, I ain't gonna lie to you, I'm probably still gonna go back to my gangster ways if it really came down to it, in terms of life or death or sticking up for my people and all that stuff.
Well, I'll say this.
And it's like when you always feel that way towards your parents and your siblings, but then when when next thing you know, when babies start to show up through your siblings or through yourself, your perspective becomes much more territorial. You start to go, yo, I will do anything possible to either to avenge or get revenge, and it's a dark thing to think about. But I guarantee you there are so many people that feel that way. They're just like, yo, at the end of the day, I'm only human, and I'm probably going to do the worst if somebody does anything to hurt my own.
Well, I'll say this. I think that, like I said, and I can feel 100%. Like I said, the reason with someone that has such a great body of work as he does, to me, that's where I don't necessarily feel the need to argue against you. Like, for instance, when you say that's like your favorite, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't feel the need to argue against it because I see why.
Yeah.
I 100% understand why. you know, when it's simpler, like I said, I can see where someone will argue about all those different albums and different takes. But like I said, at the end of the day, Kendrick, you're wrong. You're. It's basically what it boils down to. But